Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Quanergy Water Utilities webinar. I'm Kevin Henderson, Vice President of Special Projects at LRG Marketing, and I'll be your host today. We're excited to have an expert panel to tackle this important topic. We'll start with Mark Hatcher, the Physical Infrastructure Security Leader at San Jose Water, who will cover some of the challenges facing water utilities and share his thoughts on addressing them. Next, we'll hear from Gerald Becker, Vice President of Market Development and Alliances at Quanergy, for an overview of applicable LiDAR technology. Then, we'll hear from Matt LaRue, Enterprise Business Development Manager at Convergent, with his thoughts about implementation and integration considerations. We expect to have time for questions at the end. If you have questions for the presenters, you can enter them at any time in the GoToWebinar Questions tab. Enough from me. Let's get started. Mark, the floor is yours.
Well, Kevin, thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here today, and it's wonderful to be amongst others in the utility sector to talk about some things that I think are important and cutting edge in not just solving current problems, but future-proofing our approaches across our enterprise. Once again, my name is Mark Hatcher. My background briefly, I started working law enforcement and major narcotics and found myself in the federal arena writing economic espionage models for the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. I went back to criminal investigations, focused in high tech, and left law enforcement briefly to work at Intel Corporation as their worldwide leader of intellectual property protection. Did that for a period of time, went back to law enforcement. I worked with the FBI doing national security cases after 9/11, focusing on electronic surveillance. Helped create later the Northern California Fusion Center, and connected 133 law enforcement databases into a single data set for data mining, for intelligence, and improved law enforcement coordination, and so on. So I spent about 28 years doing those things, and now currently work as the physical security manager at San Jose Water Company. I think it's important to understand that utilities are rather unique because of the percentage of decisions of consequences being made across a broad spectrum of employees at various organization levels, where you have line staff who could interrupt service either intentionally or unintentionally, to the executive leader who is making significant organizational decisions. So we have to decouple the perception that security is the sole owner of security programs and outcomes. You can't be everything to everybody. We have to get individual business units to recognize where they need to fulfill the security mission. So it may be after years of stasis or devolution, you ask yourself, how do I get my team and organization to pivot? How do I get them to become more business-centric? How do I get security ownership away from one department and embedded in others? And, you know, whether it be the lack of consensus on how do I get these different units to organize their physical security ownership, or you get them there, but at some point, a project must produce a final product. What also adds to the complexities here is that our adversary isn't the same as it was before, where you could clearly define a vandal or a criminal or saboteur or insider threat, given the population of unhoused in urban areas, the drug, alcohol, and mental health issues that come from that inescapable human component. We have to recognize that there are things being done now that in some cases go unexplained because of the trespass and the incursion that we see. So let's start talking a bit about our purpose and focus here, it's important to understand that there's a hierarchy of approaches, and you can imagine yourself being the guardian of a fortress, and you're tasked with keeping it safe from all sorts of dangers, from marauders lurking in the shadows to storms brewing on the horizon. And in the world of physical security, the ASIS model for enterprise security risk management is your master plan for safeguarding this fortress. So you first take a look around. What are the potential threats? Is it high crime area or tranquil countryside? Are there many ways for intruders to sneak in? It's about knowing the terrain and the local wildlife, so to speak. You figure out what you're up against, whether the chance of a bandit raid or a storm brewing beyond the walls. But at some point, you have to take ownership of the fortress. Next, you examine your fortress. Are the gates sturdy? Do the walls need repair? It's all about making sure your defenses are solid, from locks on the doors to integrity of your windows and fences. You don't want an easy entry for unwanted guests like these. So you scouted and you fortified the gates, and now you're reviewing your arsenal of tools and tactics. Are your lookouts, like cameras and alarms, covering the right spots? Can they see every shadow or hear every whisper? It's crucial to understand that we have to have a better read on what's going on. And so we now have to train these troops to do the right thing, or improve the value of the sensors that may be out looking for us. But you train your staff, you train your business units. Do they know what to do when the alarm sounds? Are they prepared to handle emergencies, from sieges to natural disasters? It's about making sure everyone knows their role in keeping the fortress safe, ensuring that the gates are never left unguarded. So you create your master plan, and this is where you bring it all together, and you evaluate it and you reevaluate it. But it's really about being a wise leader of a vigilant community, always prepared, always aware, always striving to protect what's valuable. So we have to really understand, where do we sit in this hierarchy? And what makes it hard, inevitably, is we go through the process that I described, and what we end up finding is that we're in this space right here, either not being performed or being performed informally, and worse yet, it's either non-existent or it's ad hoc at best. And so we feel we have more wrong than right, and the resources and budgets have their limitations. And you've gone through the ACES process, or others, the Department of Energy or EPA or others have provided, depending upon what sector you're in. But at the heart of this approach is the idea that security isn't just a job of the security team, it's everybody's business, from top executives to frontline workers. So this model gives us the unity that we're looking for in the stages of growth, but we seem overwhelmed in the process. So let's talk about that business-centric component. We have to talk about the strategic alignment, how both models emphasize the importance of aligning their respective strategies with their overall strategy. And enterprise security risk management ensures that security risks are managed in a way that supports the business objective, while the business optimization model focuses on improving the process and operations to achieving those objectives. So by aligning both, an organization can ensure that security measures do not hinder, but instead enable business processes to be more efficient and more effective. At its core, ESRM is the identification, assessment, and mitigation of security risks. Business optimization models also consider risks, particularly in terms of process variation and operational inefficiencies. So the more we can affect that improvement in the business operation, the more aligned we are with business outcomes, the more continuous we strive to improve, the greater our opportunity is to improve our structures along the way. So in a rough sense of it all, we identify our threat defenses, and then over time, we become much more business oriented, from tactical decisions to strategic outcomes. And the way we go about doing this is we take those ESRM studies, we take our business alignment strategies, and we start to define to a rough order of magnitude what this means for us in the selection of technology. So those solutions define our intentions to advance our maturity and enhance our enterprise optimization. It gives us the proper size fit. So let's talk about Quanergy specifically. What's important to understand is the low error rate and the object classification that allows your operational picture to be better understood at a high degree of confidence. And this becomes really important in a minute. And it's the one technology that meets all phases of the maturity models. And so for us, it starts with trespass, but for business, it's what's happening on our sites, in our buildings, around our space. And how do we automate the utilization of this sensory information in conjunction with other values to improve our safety, security, and operational workflows? Now, reliable data is important. And if we want to take and say data at rest, structured or unstructured, is rather easy to manage and maintain. But for security, for business workflows, for the types of things we want to do, we have to take data in motion and have it actionable in near real time. So with that in mind, what we have to understand is where artificial intelligence fits. AI is a broad field encompassing the creation of intelligent machines that can think and act like humans in various ways. Probably the most important of those ways include tasks like learning, problem solving, and decision making. And when you think about those three elements, they're incredibly important for security, but they're also incredibly important for these other areas. So machine learning is a subset of AI that focuses on training algorithms to learn from data and improve the performance of a specific task. It involves feeding the algorithm data. In other words, you have sensors that's acquiring information and allowing it to identify patterns and relationships within that data, and then using those patterns to make predictions or decisions on new data. Now, some of you only heard data, and others of you better understand machine learning and AI as it's crossed our normalcy and it's not so esoteric. But when we start getting into other subfields like computer vision that deals with equipping machines with the ability to extract information from visual data, including object detection and identifying specific objects within images or videos or sensory information like LiDAR. Now, when it starts becoming more humanistic, it involves expert systems, emulating the expertise of human specialists in a specific domain. These systems mimic the decision-making capabilities of human experts in a specific area. They rely on a knowledge base containing domain-specific expertise and rules to solve problems and provide advice. So imagine going from the equivalent of a VCR, where you're going fast forward, rewind to see what happened because of some negative reporting that there was a theft or an intruder or an assault, to now being able to create automations within your workflow that when somebody comes on property, you can tell the difference between friend or foe, that you're able to immediately have guard service respond, law enforcement if necessary, and monitoring at an expertise level that would normally take a profound amount of money and training at a SOC center where the guard service may or may not meet your desired outcomes. So from this, it's important to recognize that there are values that go beyond just security. And we have to bring those values together. And with them comes the opportunity for this financial investment, because there's greater value seen in what's being implemented. That our confidence that the classification, tracking, and automation is accurate, and our deployment of resources is more timely and more accurate. And in the end, mitigates a problem that much faster before a small problem becomes a big problem. So the future's here: machine learning, computer vision, AI, and what Quanergy really provides is what the customer demands. I'm going to let Gerald speak more to the technology itself and its application in specific areas and business orientation and what have you. I mentioned earlier that there's a broad spectrum. We can think of asset management and regulatory compliance and natural disaster or life safety and security, right? But there's more to it than that. What I would like to do is give you an idea of how to grow in that regard. And what I mean by that is at some point, you have to scale a program and build an ecosystem. So the way I approach it is through these 4 phases. And in these 4 phases, we start with risk hazard site assessments. Then we move on to site-specific mitigation plans where a rough order of magnitude decisions are made to design, build, and then report and rate case to complete the cycle. So we take those third-party evaluations, apply them against ASIS and other standards, and create risk and hazard reports that are then shared with Convergent, where they team up with our evaluator to develop these rough order of magnitude specifications. We internally evaluate them on a business level, not just in a security level. And we meet and confer and garner our own customer acceptance internally and externally. Now, while we're doing that, we know that we need to do something. And in some cases, as we saw during COVID, that equipment acquisition and things like that created long lead times and logistical problems. So what we tend to do is the long lead time materials, once we complete our 30% design, we'll start ordering those materials. And during that design build process, we'll develop a final design. And once again, we'll bring in our internal evaluation and internal teams. And we'll go through construction and acceptance, training and maintenance. But what this helps us do is we take these third-party specific reports, we take our contributions from these rough order of magnitudes, and we bring them down and bundle them in capital improvement plan studies and reports. They can be distributed internally, where governance, policy, and procedures can take place, and where we create something called a master station design. Now, what that allows us to do with those master station designs is speed the planning, budgeting, designing, and implementation of new assets that are being created for underlying business purpose. So we start to support these other departments with security apparatus as we define this a la carte menu of available resources. There are corporate considerations and other things, but what we're also able to do is take this information and use it for our rate case. We're a water utility, so AWIA and what have you, to seek new funding to then start the cycle with the next round of locations to be completed. Now, what I can tell you is that there's a process to this where there's a lot of time spent on the front end, but what happens is you start to bring your security into your enterprise risk management and your business optimization through governance, policy, funding, and cohesion, and what data we're able to provide them. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, and I'm available for questions. But I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Gerald and have him speak next about the technology specifically.
Thanks, Mark. That was great. We appreciate the insights into your methodology and how you work through an enterprise security rollout at scale. A quick introduction on myself. My name is Gerald Becker. I am the VP of Market Development and Strategic Alliances at Quanergy. My primary focus is developing partnerships and opportunities in the physical security market to include smart cities and smart spaces. Now, Quanergy is redefining physical security with real-time 3D LiDAR solutions. Based in Silicon Valley, Quanergy's revolutionary integrated LiDAR perception software solution delivers intelligent, proactive awareness for highly dynamic environments like critical infrastructure, smart cities, smart spaces, and industrial automation. Quanergy's mission is to ensure you see beyond current sensing limitations and experience the power of 3D security designed for a 3D world. Quanergy was the first company to offer an end-to-end solution of both hardware and perception software in the LiDAR world. Our combined solution together with sensor and software is called QTrack. Our sensors are NDA compliant, Buy America Act compliant, Trade Agreement Act compliant, GDPR compliant. They are also IP67K rated to be able to withstand some of the harshest weather. The Quanergy LiDARs are by far the easiest to deploy, offering PoE plus connectivity for ease of installation. The sensor is a Class 1 eye-safe laser, 905 nanometer, and it offers 20 times higher accuracy than conventional security solutions in the market, with zero personal identifiable risk when privacy is a concern. Now, a single sensor can provide 140 meters in diameter of continuous object detection, tracking, and classification. So let's conceptualize this. We know that 3 American football fields put side by side is about 146 meters. So if we put our sensors next to the football fields, you can see that we could clearly cover the width of them with a single sensor. Now, LiDAR alone does not capture biometric information. In essence, it does not see like a camera does. What LiDAR actually captures looks like a 3D silhouette or an outline of moving objects. The other piece to QTrack is our perception software, Cortex. The easiest way to understand what perception is to think of it like a video analytic or IVA to a camera. Perception is our analytic per se to our LiDAR sensors. It can tell you object types, location, and speed. Cortex can track over 1,000 objects simultaneously within the software. It provides centimeter level accuracy, by far one of the most accurate sensors in the market. We support Windows, we support Linux, and we have an extensive ecosystem of integrations to include various VMSs, PSIMs, cameras, business intelligence, and so much more. Now, it's very important to talk about the TCO advantage. We strongly believe that a layered technology approach is the best route to take advantage of various technologies, but also helping improve costs and provide additional functionality. As is the case in this example, this customer was looking to get complete coverage all the way out to the street. Unfortunately, the biggest deployment costs weren't at the sensor level, but with infrastructure cost. As we can see, to get a camera along the highway here, they would need to trench, lay conduit, run cable, install poles, with each pole alone ranging in pricing from $20,000 to $30,000 a piece when all is said and done. We saw an opportunity to take it to the inner circle here, where there was network infrastructure, saving this customer tens of thousands of dollars in deployment costs alone. We suggested 8 LiDAR sensors with 4 high-end PTZ cameras. We understand that not all locations are laid out the same from one site to the next. This, of course, will depend on the threat levels and compliancy requirements that are at each individual location. At a high level, this is a simple design that can provide great coverage of a water facility. We first drop in 3D LiDAR sensors and maximize the coverage throughout the property with properly designed solution. We can then take advantage of different types of technologies that are available, from mobile surveillance towers, which James at Convergent designs together with Mobile Pro Systems. They then attach PTZ cameras from top manufacturers like Bosch, Teledyne FLIR, Axis, and Hanwha. We're in hard-to-get-to locations for infrastructure leveraging solutions such as PowerStack for off-grid power. So let's see all of this in action now at a property. This is a simulation of our sensor as the unit gets powered up. It begins emitting light pulses in a 360-degree motion in various angles. Now, every time a light pulse hits an object, it leaves a point in the sky up to 1.3 million times per second, which is what we call a point cloud as seen here. The magic happens when we marry LiDAR with video by providing a third eye to surveillance. Within Cortex, we could create 3D detection zones, such as the case here for a PID scenario. When the bad actor enters the detection zone, we immediately slew the cue the PTZ camera and then start tracking the person of interest down to the centimeter. You can see that we track every footstep within Cortex and with the camera as the perpetrator walks along the perimeter. With QMaps, we can also provide a map overlay showing exact location data as it corresponds to the person of interest as they walk around the property. Utility sites can be large with dynamic terrains. Interconnecting several technologies will help provide the full story within a VMS, which will ensure you capture full chain of custody from start to finish. The following is an example of how it would operate within a VMS such as Security Center. The VMS ingests the detection zones created within Cortex, our perception software, and you can see the sensor placement here as it corresponds to the sensor locations at the site. As we zoom out on the total site layout, we can see that we indeed have an object detection coming into frame. This is where the process flow for procedure acknowledgement would come into play after assessing the situation for a potential threat. We slew to cue the camera and immediately start with video archiving into the VMS. Once a threat enters the alarm zone, it goes from green to red, launching the event to action sequence of procedures. The following example shows how you can also deploy LiDAR sensors in areas where otherwise other technologies such as RF sensors may be challenged due to the environment, such as metal. You can deploy LiDAR sensors inside of a substation and be able to track every footstep a person takes as they walk around the property, all at the same time as we slew to cue the camera and consistently track throughout the facility. In this last video, you will see how we handle camera handoff from one PTZ camera to the next. As you can see, we have two 3D tracking zones. You will see the person of interest run into zone 1 and we immediately slew to cue the first PTZ camera. We are sending location data directly to the camera plus or minus 3 centimeters of accuracy. Now what you'll see here momentarily is that our person of interest will run from zone 1 into zone 2. As programmed, you will see that the first PTZ camera goes to its home location and the second camera seamlessly picks up the tracking. This provides automation in your operations, which allows you to maintain continuous tracking and surveillance on the object of interest as they traverse across the property. So I want to end on these last points. Why Quanergy? First and foremost is the total cost of ownership advantage you get with Quanergy. You will get 20 times more accuracy versus legacy technology at less than half the cost. Secondly, we all know the example regarding the iceberg analogy, right? You can't look at the cost of a purchase at the sensor level, but you have to look beneath the iceberg as you total the amount of infrastructure required to deploy. A single sensor will be able to cover up to 3 football fields, adding further savings to the project due in part to less sensors required. Third, it's a drastic drop in false alarms compared to conventional solutions in the market, which ultimately will also provide OpEx savings due to less guard services required. Our solutions will improve response efficiency, reduce alarm fatigue exponentially, and ensure no real threat goes unnoticed. Next one is our mesh architecture, which gives you the ability to create a complete digital twin of your property. We will be able to continuously track objects from one scene to the next, improving operational workflows and maximizing operator efficiency. You can be rest assured that you will gain the required risk reduction to meet regulatory and compliance requirements, avoiding hefty fines and potential litigation fees. Another important point is that we're not susceptible to RF interference from metal or power station equipment. We are a 360-degree sensor not limited to 120 degrees. We don't fall victim to any crosstalk that RF devices typically do. Lastly, Quanergy has an extensive ecosystem of security technology partners. We work with all major brands of PTZ cameras, we have countless VMS integrations, and continue to expand every year with new security technologies. With that being said, I want to kick it over to Matt from Convergent to talk about Convergent services and offerings.
All right, thanks, Gerald. My name is Matt LaRue. I am on the dedicated Convergent Utilities team. And a little bit about Convergent. So we have around 100 TTC Convergent Technology Centers across the US, several hundred across the world. Here in the United States, we focus on health and safety first with our clients. We like to align our service and safety programs around the client's programs, which are typically very well established. Our team has a lot of years experience in regulatory critical infrastructure. So that includes oil and gas, industrial, petrochemical. We're now, seeing a lot more activity in renewables, battery storage, transmission distribution, bulk electric, and especially water utilities. Our engineering department here at Convergent, what's nice about working with our team is it's a functional design before the proposal greets the client. And what I mean by that is Quanergy is an example of a product that we've brought into our lab. We have tested it and really kicked the tires and really stress tested the integrations with a lot of our third-party product partners for video integration and some of the big name companies that most of our clients are using. Quanergy is integrating with. We like Quanergy. We love the LiDAR technology because it's serving a strong purpose of alarm reduction and alarm accuracy. So when we learn what the client's strategies are 2, 3, 5 years out and really connect ourselves into their technology roadmap, Quanergy is a very good fit inside those applications. Some of those trends we're seeing today include things like fence modernization, substation hardening. And in the traditional sense, a lot of those technologies were analog and very cumbersome, not just from an installation standpoint, but calibrating, maintaining many of the technologies, the existing legacy technologies for perimeter detection are also aging quickly. We're seeing a lot of degradation in those systems, a heavy need for replacement of those systems. And for any of the customers that are using legacy perimeter detection technologies, they will tell you that it's expensive to install. So we see Quanergy very helpful for us in the sense that the alarm accuracy, when it's combined with video analytics and proper video configuration and coverage, of course, of the site, Quanergy is a great solution when it comes to that alarm reduction, that alarm verification between a false or a positive. A lot of our clients are especially pleased when they see the ability for Quanergy to help track subjects when there is an alarm, when there is an event. So that is really doing a lot of things for our clients when it comes to reducing alarm fatigue, alarm reduction, and it's helping our customers in their operating procedures, especially when they're performing investigations. So Convergent combined with Quanergy, we're seeing a trend where many of the analytics and the hardware that's being installed at the site can also be used for means of failover and redundancy, which is important, especially when you're in a regulatory medium or high impact location. So having the additional LiDAR hardware up and running, again, makes for faster, more accurate investigations. And it's really helping our clients become compliant and helps with shorten their investigation times. The thing I personally and my engineers really like about Quanergy is with some other technologies like radar, you have issues when there's inclement weather, heavy rain, fog. Also in the higher voltage substations and yards, we see some problems with interference. And so LiDAR really helps those unique applications where there's no degradation or no quality of loss whenever LiDAR is put in those situations. So Quanergy's product is great in those really challenging situations. Also at the command and control, it's a game changer as far as I'm concerned when it comes to the accuracy of the alarms. We have a couple of clients that are using it in their most critical sites, and being able to quickly distinguish between a false or a positive alarm in those critical sites is very helpful for not just the client from a response perspective, but it also gives them a peace of mind that when there is an incident, it allows them to respond quicker and more accurately. So these are all the reasons why Convergent and Quanergy have a strong partnership. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Kevin.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, I'm going to welcome our presenters. If they still have a camera connection, there's Gerald. Hi, and there's Mark. All right, great. We do have some time for questions, so thank you very much to the presenters so far. And again, I understand Mark and Gerald were able to stay on the line with us and help get some answers to these questions. So now, as a reminder, please, if you have a question for the presenters, please enter it in the questions tab. That's the place where I'll see them. And if we don't get to all of the questions, I see a few coming in, and if I don't get to them all, don't worry, we're going to capture them all, and I'll forward them to the presenters so they can follow up with you individually as appropriate. So let's see what we've got. Got a couple of interesting ones here. Let me see if I can consolidate this. First one here, the first one and two is about leveraging and making an investment today with today's technology versus where we might go with AI in the future. So we know things are changing quickly there. So there's a question there. Do you think AI is going to change the direction of this, or how would you advise people in this day and age? Mark, if you're available, you want to give this one a first go?
Sure. I think that we all anticipate AI having an impact on our business, but we also have an impact on those who we serve. And we want to enter that fray fairly early in understanding how we can make data-driven decisions. And so Quanergy allows us, with the accuracy of identification of objects, to use that data and quantify certain decisions and dashboards and other things. So it's not just about video, it's not just about LiDAR, it's about taking the essence of what those discoveries are and place them in context with other business decisions. And so we look forward to that aspect. Gerald, you might be able to speak more to the technical or other aspects.
You're spot on, Mark. So, from our perspective, we see a layered approach and orchestrating with various types of technologies in the near future that could provide additional outcomes and capabilities, right? So we don't believe that there's any single technology that will be able to solve every single problem out there, but with a layered approach and the best of breed of what's out there, you'll be able to, provide a layered approach that can give you the peace of mind that you'll be able to see everything and anything when it's a real alarm and when you need to action your team to assess the situation that's out there. So, AI is, prevailing technology right now. There's a lot of discussions about the latest and greatest with AI, and it's going to continue to evolve with compute, getting cheaper and getting stronger and getting faster and more efficient. And, the way that we see it is we love being on the front end with this, being able to provide a three-dimensional scene to existing technologies that traditionally been two-dimensional, and providing a different layer to the approach as something that will continue to grow for us and the industry as a whole.
I would just add that the importance of accuracy when you're trying to take numbers out of a particular context. So the more noise there is, the harder it is to be able to rely on dashboards and those data-driven decisions. So the precision and the physical security acuity of what's going on is really important
when you start thinking of, you're going to get into the raw information, not raw video, but you're going to put this and contextualize it with other things. So the accuracy, I think, to me is what's really important in that one.
Okay, great. Thanks to you both. I'm seeing a couple of questions about the LiDAR sensor installation. For example, Gerald, I think you covered about the coverage from by sensor, but someone asked, can you, that went by quickly, I think can you just reiterate how much coverage you can expect from one or more sensors? And in a related question there is that one of the folks noticed in the example, it looked like there were some shadows from buildings, and that raised the question about what the normal height of installation is as well. So maybe those two can work together.
Sure, absolutely. So first and foremost, a single sensor is going to be able to give you 140 meters in diameter of continuous object detection, tracking, and classification. So once again, it's probably similar to the width of 3 football fields, just so you have a general context of what we're talking about as far as a single sensor. Now, you can fuse multiple sensors together to create one massive digital twin. So, if Mark has a massive facility and wants to be able to cover the whole facility, and it's going to take 4 or 5 sensors to do it, you just overlap them with one another. As long as the beams are covering from one sensor to the next, the solution, our QTrack software sees it as one massive environment. So it just continuously tracks all throughout the space. Now, within our software itself, you have the capability to configure all kinds of different zones. If it's an exclusion zone, an event zone, an inclusion zone, and these all mean things, right? If it's an exclusion zone, it may be an area where there's foliage that's moving around, and we don't want to see that foliage because it's going to create nuisance alarms within the system. Or there may be a surface area that we don't care about because there may be some sort of reflection or something that may come of it. We can completely exclude that, right? So we'll be able to see everything and anything. It is a line of sight technology within the scene. But the cool thing about our solution is that you can get super granular in tuning the system to eliminate all that noise that's coming in and interrupting your day-to-day operations as an alarm, so that you can be rest assured that when an alarm does come in, you're not staring at a wall with trees and birds come around all the time. You're actually looking and listening for real alarms as they potentially approach the facility.
Okay. Mark, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think the added value of the distance that it's able to operate in, and the ability for it to be layered, not just with other physical security technology like cameras and what have you, but within itself to be able to hand off those things from one sensor to another sensor as you have movement through a site or around objects or things like that, to me is important in understanding contextually what's going on in a complex scene.
Great answer. No, I appreciate that. Here's a question right for you, Mark, that says, it's asking, you mentioned a number of departments within San Jose Water. Somebody's asking, are there other departments that are still using traditional security solutions or investing in that way for operations and business applications? So how, can you give us an update on that situation?
Sure. So we're looking at this beyond security, right? What we're really doing is building a situational awareness platform, not just a security platform, where other business units, whether it be asset management, whether it be operations, whether it be our materials and logistics and what have you, we all take part in sort of this environment management. And for me, my problems start when somebody trespasses, and other people's, it might be the delivery of chemical drums or other types of things, or regulatory compliance for certain aspects. And so what we're trying to do is look beyond physical security at its application for better understanding when we can give notifications to departments when things are going on, or include them in dashboards and objects, and understanding what's going on in an environment in real time. So, this is the whole idea of business optimization, as I mentioned earlier, is within this enterprise security risk management model, to where as you become more attuned to your security business, you should become more attuned to your underlying core business and how you can help function, operate, and support within that context.
That's part, then that maturity model that you showed earlier. Okay, so if anybody missed that part, yeah, that's in the recording too. You may want to go back and study that. Let's see, Gerald, here's one for you. Can you discuss LiDAR's advantages over radar? That's a big question, but jump right in.
Yeah, so look at there's pros and cons to all technologies, right? I mentioned this earlier that there's not a single technology that can solve everybody's problem, right? Where you may do better in range with other technologies, you may succumb to issues with other things such as EMI interference within substations or stuff like that. The power that we have over radar when it's an apples to apples. I'm not talking about Raytheon multi-million-dollar radar that's going to go out to outer space. I'm talking about physical security applications in that sense, and apples to apples is that we're going to give you full 360. We're going to give you depth. We're going to give you volume. We're going to give you centimeter accuracy. And with that being said, it's just so much more than you would with the conventional approach in these technologies. Now, like I said, I'm not saying that we're a replacement too, but we augment a lot of applications and we provide additional value or additional capabilities that you just wouldn't be able to do with, the status quo of security solutions out there, right? And that's just my 2 cents on it, right? So I don't want to talk too much further on radar, but let's just say that we have our place in the whole ecosystem as far as technology approach.
Here's a follow-up, because the folks have, the other alternatives, there are traditional alternatives. They'd be looking at cameras, for example. And so I think what you were alluding to is that when you use LiDAR sensors, you may be able to reduce the number of required sensors to cover an area. Is that correct? And can you elaborate a little bit?
Absolutely. So you hit that on the nail, right? So we're seeing quite a bit of reduction at the sensor level. And I'm not just saying it's just camera, maybe RF sensors, it may be microwave, maybe fence shaking technology. But what we're able to do is we're able to exponentially bring the total infrastructure cost at the sensor level and also at the installation, the wire pool, and all that site work type of deployment as well, because we require less sensor compared to conventional deployments. Now, we love working with cameras because we augment cameras. Cameras help us see. We don't see like cameras do. So PTZ cameras, we could slew to Q cameras, and we provide that functionality to your Bosches, your Hanwhas, your Axis, your Teledyne FLIRs. We're able to slew to Q and move them and give them precise location data to track a person of interest. Now, we could put a PTZ camera completely on one side of the building and put a LiDAR on the other, and then we work in cooperation with one another where we move the camera around and we're tracking in the full 360. Ultimately, it's like that analogy I gave earlier. It's not looking at the sensor level, right? That whole iceberg theory, right? People are always stuck at like, oh, what is your single sensor cost? And then they start doing their math there. But you got to look beneath the iceberg, right? What's it going to cost to trench, to lay conduit, to run cable, to install, to maintain, to keep that system up when you have 20 sensors versus 4 or 5 of our sensors, right? It starts to add up quickly, and the TCO advantage clearly starts to appear out of the gate.
Okay, thanks. Mark, I've got one I think that would be perfect for you here. The question is, as a new potential customer or a customer who's considering LiDAR for the first time, what kind of support is there so that they know that they're applying the technology correctly and making good use of their money? Let's put it that way.
No, absolutely. I think that, as I mentioned in the ESRM discussion earlier, is that it starts with a firm understanding where your gaps lie, right? So you have to understand where your problems exist. And then we have to also have an appreciation for what we don't know that we need to know more about. So as you start to gather in an appropriate environment, consulting with Quanergy, consulting with integrators like Convergent, allow you to be able to really get into a proof of concept phase and understand how it best fits within your existing architecture, both currently and then into the future. And so as we all deal with public utilities commissions and expectations by ratepayers and the application of dollars in and around what we're operating, we have this responsibility to size fit appropriately, and that's really environment dependent. And so we, went and bought several security trailers. We have a Quanergy on them, and we have cameras, and our intention is to place those in different environments as we get into this design build, going out into the wild at various stations and what have you. And I would just strongly recommend getting into a proof of concept, working with your integrator, working directly with folks like Gerald to better understand what environments would best be used and what gaps you may have, so that they can then better articulate how you could utilize this to not just improve your security awareness, but also your business utilization, but also your cost savings based on a concurrent build or a previous build or a future build or what have you.
Okay, great. Gerald, I'm noticing a couple of questions on implementation. I guess the height, I'm not sure I heard the height before, what a kind of range of heights were, but somebody's also asking about different terrain. So, Mark's example, or some of the examples we saw, seem to be fairly flat. And, is this also appropriate if the terrain is more hilly? You have vegetation around, animals, this kind of thing, other kinds of locations. Are there any issues with that?
Yeah, look, the environment is going to be susceptible to all kinds of challenges, and that's where we work hand in hand with our partners such as Convergent to assess the site and really get into a design build that makes sense before we actually go out there and just slapping sensors to a wall. Typical sensor height is about 3 to 4 meters in height from the ground up, but we definitely like to assess the environment beyond than just looking at a Google top-down image and saying, oh, we're going to need 10 sensors here. We do a survey, we analyze the environment, we look at foliage, we look at new potential build outs of a new construction for the future as far as what can add additional blockages down the road. But you can configure and set up the sensors in various ways to adapt in those environments, right? So if you've got a hilly terrain with dynamic environments, you can tilt the sensors, you can install the sensors at different heights. We have clients that put these at various levels, just understanding that they got terrains that go up and down with hills and walls and all kinds of different things, where they may put them higher at certain areas, tilt them down in other areas, they'll keep them lower in other areas. But at the end of the day, as long as the point cloud, which is our perception software, as long as it fuses together, it still sees it as all one massive digital twin. It all looks the same.
Mark, I saw you nodding your head. Does that have any comment there?
Well, we have a very diverse environment, right? So we have urbanized areas where we have encroachments in our sites and are problematic because of the urbanization and what have you. And we have other environments that are, as I described, kind of out in the wild. That's watershed environment. It might include a dam or hills or what have you. And so our excitement is the diversity of application environments for this allows us to take it in context with a master station design as we start to cement the physical security philosophy and embed it into our planning, our construction design, our security design, and what have you, because we look for operational technology that can work in the most diverse areas. So we're not using 100 different types of sensors to accomplish the same task with 100 different learning curve and maintenance and vendors and what have you. So our excitement in the application of environment is significant.
Wow, that's great. Quick question, Gerald, real quick hit. Fog, rain, dust?
Yeah, so one thing I didn't get to show on the videos, and if anybody wants to follow up with me after the fact, we've got several scenarios where we tested this in the rain. Raining cats and dogs, not a problem. We'll be able to track. If a raindrop falls on a sensor, it's not going to create any sort of bounding box that move all over the place like other type of technologies. We put this in complete darkness. We shoot our own lasers, right? So we're creating our own light. So we could be in a pitch dark environment, create a massive digital twin, and see everything and anything moving around. In fog, there's going to be degradation, right? So if you can't see past X amount of feet, we're still going to be able to shoot out a little bit further out, but fog will obviously degrade the laser at a certain point. But we've seen these out at petroleum platforms on cruise lines where we'll deploy these on the side of boats or on petroleum platforms. And, we're providing safety and decreasing the liability concerns as it pertains to those applications. So we're not too worried about that. And the sensor itself is IP67K rated. So we've seen the harshest weather and the most extreme heat from sandstorms hitting our guys, but obviously we're not going to be able to stand a tornado. We'll be right next to, a house going in circles if that ever occurred.
Fair enough. And let's see. Oh, and here's a perfect final question. How do we get a demo? Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and advance to the next slide because I think the answer to how do we get a demo is contact Gerald. Listen,
there's actually two ways.
Oh, please.
Yeah, you can get a hold of either Matt or myself on LinkedIn. You can reach out to us at Quanergy, or you can reach out directly to me on LinkedIn. You've got both Matt and myself, our contacts there. We'll also be at ISC as well. So we both have booths there, so we'd love to see you come by, ask us any questions, or reach out directly to us. We'd entertain any sort of discussion or any challenges that you guys may all be facing.
Fantastic. That sounds like a great place to wrap it up for today. I really appreciate, Mark, your sharing all the great work that you've been doing, and I think that's really a great thing to share with this audience. So thanks again for that. And like Gerald said, Gerald and Matt have provided their direct contact information. You can take a screenshot of that, and they assure me that they're going to be happy to hear from you. So please reach out if you have questions there. A huge thank you again to our whole panel, and Matt and Mark and Gerald, all big thank yous to you, and big thank you to you as well for joining us today. Please have a safe and secure rest of your day. Thanks and goodbye for now.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.